How does my language make up my identity? What an odd question. If you ask me, my language doesn't make up my identity. My identity makes up my language. Let's start out with the obvious. I speak English. It's what you'd expect from a British American. Now let me answer the two questions that you probably have right now. 1. How come I don't have an accent? 2. How did I get to America? Well, my mother grew up in a town near Chicago, and my father grew up in a town near London. They both went to college in Brighton. My father studied architecture there, and my mother went there as an exchange student studying English. They met there, fell in love, married, moved to Sheffield, and had me while living in Sheffield. However, the economy was bad in England. After my father lost his job, they moved back to America where the economy was a little bit better. I was only 9 months old at the time, too young to speak and too young to have an English accent. But that hasn't stopped me from having a little bit of a British dialect thanks to living with my dad.
Hey,
Hi.
what's up?
All right, now I'm just listening to some Beatles music as well as writing a Johnny Thunder script.
Braille.
Yep. So what are you doing?
I'm looking up a recipe for basil.
Really?
Basil pesto.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that'd be good for dinner.
Now I'm hungry.
Being British has also shaped my literature. My parents understood the importance of reading to their children, and they read to me at a very young age. When I was very little, my mother used to read to me A. Milne. This is the original author of Winnie the Pooh, before Disney came along and mutilated all the characters. Then as I got older, my parents started reading me chapter books, and they continued to do so until I was in middle school. My mom read quite a bit of Roald Dahl, whom I still love to this day. And my dad read me halfway through the Harry Potter series, and also read to me the Lord of the Rings trilogy. To this day, whenever I'm trying to decide what book I want to read just on my own time, I find myself drifting back towards the British literature that I grew up with. I find that I enjoy British authors more than American authors normally. So it's clear that my heritage has had an effect on my language. But it's not the only thing that's affected my language, nor is it my biggest influence. Another big influence is my hobbies. These days, hobbies and talents have played a huge part in our lives and tend to help us fit into subcultures. You can be interested in anything from sports, to art, to fixing things, to music. Chances are you've grouped up with people with similar interests and associate them as part of your subculture. I'm no different. My favorite hobby is writing stories and then filming what I write about using Lego. I'm a huge part of the Lego subculture, to the point where I find being called a Lego geek a compliment. Since people of this subculture often share tips on how to build things, we use language to help describe what bricks we use. Use 2 layers of plates to create the floor. 4 studs is a good width for the snow in this scene. Put the minifig here so it can be alone in the snow. I'm putting my sig fig in this set. Since I film with what I build, I've acquired knowledge to describe what I'm doing as I film in case my friends of the LEGO community want to know how far I've gotten in my latest work. Looks like the rendering will take a couple of hours. My frame rate is 30 FPS, which is slightly faster than what most people use. I'll use a heart-shaped iris transition for this scene since it's for Valentine's Day. Using a zoom out here will emphasize how long away he has to go. So my main hobby in my subculture has without a doubt filled me with new vocabulary, but minor hobbies also give us new vocabulary to play with. For example, I really love cooking. This started back when I was in middle school. My dad worked full-time as an architect, and my mom decided to go back to school in order to become an RN. I was completely fine with this, but I realized that it was either I needed to learn how to cook, otherwise me and my siblings would eat mostly McDonald's and frozen pizza for the next few years. I did not want to deal with that, so I chose the former. I learned how to cook, and I absolutely loved it. Learning how to cook has given me a bunch of new vocabulary as well. Chicken stock will make a good broth. I need to simmer the mushrooms for about 10 minutes. Poaching the egg is very similar to simmering one. I season to taste using thyme, salt, and pepper in this dish. Lunch is served! Okay, you probably already know that one, but you get my point. So my language is English, and it's made interesting by my hobbies and my British background. But do I know any other languages? Indeed I do. American Sign Language. My interest in sign language was born out of my desire to become a special education teacher. I'd always known that I'd been good with kids and was thinking about working with them. I also knew that sometimes special ed students didn't get everything that they needed from school. I saw it personally when my middle school principal decided that I was too mild for her to bother telling other teachers about my disability. This led me to fall behind. I saw it happen to my disabled peers when I proved to their aide that they were capable of doing more than she thought they were capable of doing. I saw it happen to my younger brother when he was denied access to advanced classes even though he was quite gifted. I considered becoming a teacher so that I could advocate these problems that these students were having. It just wasn't fair. Then when I was 18, I was on a mission trip to help fix up a home for disabled adults that had been damaged by flooding. While there, I learned that I was able to help facilitate communication between the disabled and the non-disabled, a talent many special ed students needed their teachers to be able to do. While there were many things that also contributed to this decision, this was ultimately what made up my mind. My mom suggested that I learn sign language to help bridge this communication gap. She explained that for some students with disabilities, signing was easier than talking. So for the first 2 years of college, I was enrolled in a sign language interpretation program. While I can't say I was the best by a long shot, I became fairly fluent in the language. So now I have sign language added to my own unique English. When you first look at me, you may not think that my English is that special. But no one speaks English the same way. Things change how we speak. This makes us unique. I'm proud of who I am. My language shows this.